They're still available on Autotrader for a few £1,000s, but if you buy a good one today and look after it, I'm pretty sure in a few years that will be double or even more. Hello guys, and welcome to this Volks Wizard video. Now, you may be surprised to know that I'm not a particularly big fan of modern classic cars. I don't think it's good value for money paying more for a car today than it was worth a few years ago. Now it's older and in less good condition. But I am a big fan of finding these cars before they go up in value, because you can own it, enjoy it, and hopefully when you come to sell it a few years later, you'll get your money back, or if you're very lucky, even more. And today's video is about one of those cars, a car that the trade and the motoring press hasn't really cottoned onto just yet, and as a result they're still available on Autotrader for a few £1,000s, but if you buy a good one today and look after it, I'm pretty sure in a few years that will be double or even more. And that car is the Audi Cabriolet. So without any further ado, let me tell you a bit more about this future modern classic. Okay, let's start off then with a brief history lesson for the Audi Cabriolet. Now, this car was in production from 1992 to 2000, and it was based on the last of the Audi 80s, the B4. Now, every other model Audi 80 was dropped in 1995 when the Audi A4 came out, but this model ran in parallel as a Cabriolet with the A4 until the end of that model's production run in 2000. So this car and A4s, the first gen, were in the showrooms together, which is quite surprising really, because they're such a different car. This for me is the last of the old school Audis, which means it's really well made, but it doesn't actually drive that well. And much like the transition from 993 911 to 996, the newer car is better, but when it comes to collectability, the older ones are by far the more desirable. I mean, can you think of an A4 now that's desirable apart from an RS4? No, maybe the S4s are getting there, but yeah. So this is I mean, for me, the fact it can look like an RS2 from the fronts, the fact Lady Diana owned one and was famously recorded getting in and out of hers at a gym in the mid-90s, all go a long way to making this car a modern classic. Now, when it comes to buying them, you've got 8 years to choose from. So 1992 to 2000, there weren't really that many changes. None of the metalwork changed. In the mid-90s, we've got a little tweak with the headlights to these ellipsoid ones, which look a lot better in them. And then at the same time, we've got these 993 911 parts for the indicators and fog lights. I wonder if they were surplus stock, because the 993 went out of production around then, but they look really cool. And as I say, it looks like an RS2, apart from down here, which is a bit tamer. There was also a change to the front valance around that time where the chin was lost, so the earlier cars have got a chin sticking out there. It looks a bit better really, but you can get cars with these headlights and those front valances. There's a bit of an overlap for all the changes in the mid-90s. The wheel style changed as well, but not an awful lot else did. This is a final edition car, one of the last they ever made, registered in 2000. So you've got the power hood, you've got leather. Being a 2.8, you've got the 17-inch beautiful wheels, which are diamond cut edged. Let's have a look inside then. So, as well as being a final edition, this car's got what is called the Quattro GmbH Individualisation Pack B. Quattro GmbH were a subsidiary of Audi, like AMG are to Mercedes, and as well as making the RS cars, they also made the individualisation packages, and this one meant you could have door cards, seats, gear knob, gear gaiter, handbrake cover and steering wheel, and the edging on your floor mats, all colour coded. And if that has to be in yellow to match your brilliant yellow bodywork, if you pay enough money, you can have it. Now, it was quite an expensive option, so not many cars did. As far as I know, this is a one-off in the UK. It's a one-owner car that was owned by Audi UK, and it's done a crazy low mileage of just 11,685 miles. So while we're inside, And let me just show you around. So we've got the ignition key going into the dashboard there, which is a bit weird, but it's, you know, character. We've got the headlamp switch, can you see that, on its own stalk there rather than in the dashboard, which again is different. It's very interesting when you operate that by mistake in the dark, when you think you've gone for the indicators and you turn the lights off. So that stayed on there until the end of the first A4. I think by the time they got to 2000 they realised they better be a bit more conforming, and they put it on the dashboard where you can't operate it by mistake. You've got these really cool gauges which do work. This car's got air conditioning, which is quite a rare option because people bought a convertible and probably didn't think they needed to have aircon, but what with global warming in the intervening 20 years, I think it's probably a good idea. Having driven a black one to the south of France in the mid-noughties, in the middle of a heat wave with no air conditioning, I can tell you it's probably a good idea to have it. That trip put my wife off European trips for a long time. It didn't help that we'd had a Golf before that with air conditioning and drove all the way in a stupid Audi without it, and yeah, sweated quite a lot. So yeah, it's lovely. It's really beautifully made. I mean, it's not, you know, the best plastics and that, and the wood is a bit questionable with the yellow, but everything just feels hewn from granite. A bit of a cliche. This car's got the very high tech in its day trip computer, which again wasn't standard on a lot of them. So you operate that with a stalk just like in a Golf GTI. But that's like a Mark 1 Golf thing. This is 2000 and that was an option. Let's have a look under the bonnets. So just like the B5A4, put your finger in there. Hope it doesn't break off. So there we have a proper V6, so none of this narrow angle rubbish, although the Factor Golf VR6 of engine will be doing the same horsepower as this, 174 horsepower from an engine, I don't know, almost half the size. Just shows you this isn't a particularly efficient or modern engine, it's just a normally aspirated 2.8 litre V6. But it's got a lot more torque than the VR6. That was always a problem with the narrow angle stuff. Now here is the cruise control mechanism. So because this car's got a cable for the throttle, you can't have electronics doing the cruise control. You have to have a mechanism, and that's what it is. It does work, believe it or not. Also got a strut brace here, which is, well, could do with probably a thicker one. There is a bit of scuttle shake, as we'll come to when you drive it. But you know, this design is 28 years old, and it kind of still looks modern, and it still looks classy. And it's not big either. It's quite a small car, but it accommodates 4 people quite comfortably, unless you've got the optional wind deflector which sits in those holes there. So you can buy them on the aftermarket. They're well worth having, because even though the windows cover the driver and the passenger, unlike say a TT which kind of does that, you still get buffeted a lot. So the wind deflector that sticks up there, definitely worth ordering. The boot was pretty good as well. I mean, bear in mind the roof is down. You can't adjust the height of the roof like you can on the A4s, the height of the hood well, sorry, like you can on the A4s, but it's still a decent size. And you get a spare wheel, not to be taken for granted. And very Mercedes-y, you get this warning triangle there. Beautiful. Just feels so solid. Okay, well, the sun is out, so I think now it's time to go for a drive in this Audi Cabriolet. Okay guys, so here we are behind the very yellow steering wheel of the Audi Cabriolet, and on this very showery day the sun is now out, so I think it's probably a good idea to get the roof down. I'll just show you how it works. So like a lot of older convertibles, a bit of manual effort is needed, and in this right-hand drive car with your left hand, it's quite hard to undo this T-handle in the middle. You need to make sure you've got the handbrake on, which we have, and then just push it back a bit, and then the windows come down, which means that the electronics are ready to take over. So that's what the switch in the middle of the car is for. Just hold that back and sit back. It's quite a long process because the cover of the hood well, actually the roof has to go up at the back, the hood well cover has to go up, and the roof will just plonks its way in there, and then the hood cover comes down. I think it's pretty reliable. The ones I've had have been reliable. You do get the odd fluid leaks. I think there's a repair kit for the pump which can leak. I had to get some parts from Audi Tradition in Germany for this car because they're obsolete here, but they came pretty quickly from Germany. They weren't cheap, but at least you can get them. Okay, so that's it. The windows have come up and we're ready to go. So here we are in the countryside in a car you could pay just over £1,000 for, with the roof down, with the 4 rings on the steering wheel, enjoying the sun on my head and a V6 under the bonnet. Life's good for a couple of grand. It's not all perfect though. Being an older type of convertible, there is a fair bit of scuttle shake, so particularly noticeable with the roof down. Even little bumps cause the steering wheel to shimmy a bit because we've basically taken the roof off the box and the rigidity of it's all sort of compromised now. But you soon get used to that and you soon realise it's actually quite lovely. So yes, it does pitch and roll and wallow, but actually if you put it into a challenging corner like this, once you get through that initial woolliness, it feels actually surprisingly composed. The engine is very subdued. It's torquey. It doesn't make an awful lot of V6 snarls, so that's a bit disappointing, but it's very, very cultured in a way that modern Audis have sort of forgotten how to be, I think. The gearing's very long as well, so it's a very lazy car. Certainly suit an automatic, but it's nice to be engaged with it on a road like this. Pop it into seconds, get round the cyclist. It's not going to break your neck with acceleration. It does 0 to 60 in 9.5 seconds, which, considering the amount of engine under the bonnet, is quite disappointing. But it's a bit like asking the Queen how fast she can run 100 metres. It's not really what this car is all about. It's about cruising, and it's a very good cruiser. And it's cool, you know, it's an old car. It's actually very yellow. I'm not really embarrassed to be in it because it's cool. It's not aggressive or anything like that. It's just class. Now, the gear shift is quite lengthy, but it's alright. There's no doubt which gear it's in. The brakes are, you could say, quite classic, so there's a bit of dead travel when you think it's not going to do anything. But again, like everything else, it's an older car. You soon become accustomed to it, and at least it lacks the over-servoed feel that Audi's got on their brakes from the A4 onwards. So once you get accustomed to that initial bit of free play, it's actually quite pleasant to drive. I would recommend the wind deflector because it's not bad now, but it's massively better with it. They're a couple of £100, and okay, you can't put people in the back, but most people won't find that too much of an issue. So 3,000 revs in seconds, about 4,000 it suddenly got a bit more interested in the process of going faster. But this is a road I know quite well, and first impressions would be that it would feel pretty terrifying on this road, but it's quite small, which helps. So lazy. That's third gear into fourth. And the problem is, it's actually quite deceptively fast once you do get going because it's so refined. It does help that we've got some brand new Pirellis on it. This car was supplied to me with its original 20-year-old Pirellis that still, because of the mileage, had plenty of tread left, but I feel a lot more confident driving it now. We've got some rubber from this decade on it. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed this Volks Wizard video about the Audi Cabriolet, which is available right now for rock bottom prices, but I'm pretty sure very soon will be a copper bottomed classic. If you have enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, please do share, please do comment as well. I'm going to try and reply to them all over the weekend, and please as ever do subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one soon.